Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. As Karen already said, I am Brecht van der Hoeven from Pack4Food. And the next 10 minutes, I will be talking about a project of Pack4Food, the CIRCOPACK project, and the online LCA tool that came out of this CIRCOPACK project. And it's actually a project that incorporated the PEF method and LCA calculations. So first of all, we want to give you some context. Why did we ever start with this project? It is because we received a lot of similar questions, such as what is sustainable food packaging? If I shift from plastic to, let's say, paper, or the other way around, is that really the most sustainable option? And all these questions gave us the motivation to make a definition of the goal of CIRCOPACK, to define a project where we would like to develop an online toolbox which allows companies to make an informed decision regarding their food packaging material. So we selected a broad range of materials in the CIRCOPACK project, of which you can see some on these slides. So this is not the complete overview of all the materials that we used in the experiments. This is just to indicate that we have the more traditional packaging materials, such as the PE bag or PP foil, but also the bioplastics, a hybrid tray, trays that include recycled content or alternative barriers. So CIRCOPACK is a cook project that followed a case-based approach. And this actually means that we had to select 5 different food cases, food products, going from short shelf life to medium or long shelf life. And for each of these food cases, there is a certain packaging that is currently used, references. And we also selected a number of possible alternatives that we would like to investigate. Now, for each of these cases, an environmental impact assessment was done throughout the entire food packaging chain. And it's also important to mention that we looked into different sorting and recycling strategies. For example, certain partners looked at mechanical recycling, the influence of the inking, but there was also one partner involved who did experiments about chemical recycling. The project started in 2019 and will end at the end of this month, and it was subsidized by Vlaio. Of course, when you're going to do a calculation throughout the entire food packaging chain, you also need partners who have a wide variety of knowledge. First of all, Pack4Food and Flanders Food were involved in the project. But more importantly, there was a broad range of research groups who participated in CIRCOPACK. First of all, there was NutriFoodchem and LFMFP, 2 research groups who focused on shelf life evaluation. So what is the effect on the shelf life if we use an alternative packaging configuration for a certain food product? LCPE and CPMT were the groups who focused on sorting experiments and recycling experiments. How well recyclable are these alternative packaging materials? MPRNS focused on the characterization of this packaging material, what are the properties, and SenseTech, SenseNet focuses on sensory properties of the materials. And last but not least, there is also the group Sustainable Systems Engineering, or STEN, from University of Ghent, who did the environmental sustainability analysis, so the LCA calculations. Just as an example, these are the companies that were involved in CIRCOPACK, and I tried to cluster them around their activities. So you have the food companies on the left, you have the federations here, packaging companies, the retailers on the right, and then you have here the company called Cure, who is a company from the Netherlands and focuses on chemical recycling techniques. Now, we already heard a lot of information about the LCA studies and the PEF method. So you can ask the question, what is the added value of these LCA studies done in CIRCOPACK? And for us, it's first of all that we have a wide range of tested packaging materials and food products, because you saw already that there's a lot of possibilities for assumptions, for methodologies that you can use. But here in this project, we use an identical methodology for a lot of products. So a fair comparison between the references and alternatives is possible, and you can also compare the different cases. Furthermore, we have two options in CIRCOPACK. On the one hand, you can compare the packaging materials, so an LCA for the packaging materials, but we also look at the combination packaging material plus food product. This means that you can get a better view on potential food losses when you change to a certain alternative type of packaging, and you can also see the relative impact of packaging material. Loss advantage of the LCAs in CIRCOPACK is the type of end of life that we incorporated. As I said, there is one group who focused on the sorting model, that was LCPE, and actually they developed a sorting model that can predict which end of life destination your packaging material will have. So this is valuable information for an LCA study. And we try to include multiple LCA end-of-life scenarios in the LCA calculations. First of all, of course, there is the scenario for Belgium, which is the most accurate because we were able to work with FOST+, but we also included Benelux and EU average end-of-life scenarios. Now, I will not go into detail into the method that Stan used in calculating these LCAs, but it's, as Vila already said, for each step, so from raw material extraction to manufacturing to distribution, use, and end of life, you look at all the resources that are used and all the emissions that are involved in each of these steps. But important for CIRCOPACK is, on the one hand, that we focus on the food products, but we also look at the packaging materials. Now, we also saw in the previous presentation that there are 4 steps involved in calculating a PEF study for LCA. So I skipped the part of goal definition and data collection. So data collection in this case was partly done with the help of the companies involved in these case studies, but also another part came from databases such as EcoInvent. Now, in the third step, you, of course, assess the impact, and Stan opted for 2 ways to assess this. First of all, they use the resource consumption method. So the resource consumption by using the SEEN method, this means which natural resources did we require to obtain a packed food product. And the second one is also familiar from the previous presentation, where we look at the environmental footprint with this midpoint score and the endpoint score. And when you use this environmental footprint, you are able to bundle these into one single score. Now, we're at the end of this 3-year project, this CIRCOPACK project, and we have a lot of information from 5 different case studies, 5 different detailed LCAs. So the question was, how will we make this into an easy-to-use application for the companies that are involved in CIRCOPACK? How can they use this? And that's where the idea came to make a CIRCOPACK tool. This tool will be available on the website www.circopack.be. And it's actually pretty simple. Companies will be able to make a simulation. So a user can select a food product. I have to stress that the food products that are currently in the drop-down menu here are the cases of the CIRCOPACK project. So these 5 different food products. Then you can select a certain type of primary packaging, also secondary, tertiary packaging, an end-of-life region, and you can make the simulation. And the simulation, of course, uses the data collected from the partners and from the databases used in CIRCOPACK. Then you can make a comparison. So you select a certain simulation as a reference. Also, you can select up to 3 different alternatives. Important is because, as already mentioned in the questions, there are assumptions possible. You can also find all the background information about which assumptions are made in this step. But when you make a comparison, you see these results. This is just one graph. There are a lot of graphs that you get as a result. But this is, for instance, what you see when you compare the primary packaging. So you have a reference, in this case, 3 alternatives, and you get the results from this LCA calculation. And as I mentioned, there's also the combination food packaging, food and packaging. So here you can see the distribution between the different categories, and you can see the relative impact of your packaging. For instance, for this second alternative, this is bigger than, this is the biggest of the 3 other simulations. So this is very briefly what we did in the CIRCOPACK project as an during the past 3 years. But this will not be the end. We will continue to refine this program and further test it. And after the summer, we are the goal is to disseminate this CIRCOPACK tool even further. And we are already looking at follow-up project to generate more data, more LCAs, and to expand the tool even further. So that was very briefly about the CIRCOPACK tool and CIRCOPACK project. If you have any questions, you can always contact Pack4Food if you're interested in our organization. Here is the link to the website. If there are questions regarding the LCAs, you can always send them to us and we can bring you into contact with people of STEM. Thank you for your attention.